In the beginning, before the earth took shape, there was light, not the light of the sun, but a radiant glory that illuminated the celestial realms. From this light came the angels, each unique, each beautiful. Among them stood Lucifer, the morning star, whose very presence seemed to outshine the host of heaven. His hair shimmered like molten gold, and his eyes glimmered with the fire of the stars. His voice was a melody that made the heavens tremble with joy, and his wings, adorned with shimmering jewels, stretched like rainbows across the expanse of the heavens. Lucifer was no ordinary angel. God himself had crafted him to be a seal of perfection, wisdom incarnate, and beauty unparalleled. He stood as the chief cherub, leading the chorus of angels in worship. His steps left trails of light, and the other angels revered him. Yet, as Lucifer gazed into the reflection of his own magnificence, something began to stir within him. A faint whisper, a question. Why not more? Far above, the throne of God radiated with unapproachable light, a brilliance Lucifer could admire but never fully comprehend. Though his place was near the throne, his heart began to ache with an unspoken desire. The harmony of heaven vibrated with energy, but Lucifer's melody started to clash. His thoughts grew darker, his desires sharper, and in the shadow of God's light, a seed of rebellion was planted. The celestial realms echoed with hymns of praise, their harmonies resonating through endless skies. Angels flew in intricate formations, their movements a testament to divine artistry. Among them, Lucifer soared above, his every motion graceful, commanding. He was a symphony in flesh, the crown jewel of heaven's choir. Lucifer's role was sacred. As the leader of worship, he stood closest to the throne, orchestrating the celestial songs that glorified the Creator. Each note that left his lips felt alive, woven into the fabric of creation itself. Yet, beneath the perfection of his facade, something was changing. In quiet moments, Lucifer would linger near the crystalline sea, gazing at his reflection. His thoughts betrayed him. Why do I bow when my beauty rivals the heavens? Why do I serve when my wisdom outshines all others? The stars themselves seemed to whisper back, feeding his pride. It was subtle at first, a lingering gaze here, a fleeting thought there. But pride grew like a shadow, stretching across the setting sun. Still, heaven's harmony held firm, unaware of the brewing storm. Gabriel and Michael, Lucifer's closest counterparts, noted his occasional detachment but dismissed it as weariness. After all, who could suspect the morning star? Yet, deep within his being, Lucifer felt an ache, a void that no worship could fill. He didn't just want to serve the light. He wanted to be the light. The seeds of rebellion were sprouting, though the heavens remained blissfully unaware. Lucifer stood on the high peaks of heaven, where the light was brightest, and the air carried the whispers of divine mysteries. Yet, the radiance that once filled him with awe now felt like a challenge, a light to surpass, a glory to claim for himself. He began walking among the angelic hosts, his words carefully chosen, his voice dripping with charm. Have you ever wondered, he mused to a group of curious angels, why we must always serve? Are we not magnificent creations in our own right? Could we not ascend even higher? The angels glanced at one another, uneasy yet captivated. Lucifer's questions were daring, his tone persuasive. At night, while the heavens slept in peace, Lucifer wandered alone. His steps echoed through the silent halls of eternity as he gazed toward the throne of God, its brilliance burning in his mind. He clenched his fists, his heart pounding with a forbidden thought. I deserve to sit there. The whispers in his heart grew louder. Pride, like a serpent, coiled tightly around his soul, whispering promises of power and glory. The cracks in his resolve widened, but no one else seemed to notice. To them, Lucifer was still the beacon of light, their guiding star. But in the hidden chambers of his mind, he was no longer a servant. He was a rival. Lucifer's pride began to take shape as rebellion. He sought out angels with influence, weaving his thoughts into theirs. He whispered in hushed tones about their worth, their beauty, and their untapped potential. Why should we bow so low? He questioned, his voice rich and inviting. Do you not feel the fire within you? Were we not made in glory? Should we not rise to meet it? Many listened, their loyalty faltering under his seductive logic. Yet others felt unease, sensing the danger in his words. Gabriel, ever watchful, confronted him. "Lucifer," Gabriel said, his voice steady, "these thoughts you speak, they are not of the light. What stirs within you?" Lucifer smiled, his expression unreadable. "Merely pondering," he replied, but his eyes burned with defiance. The shadows of rebellion thickened. A third of the angels began to see Lucifer not as a servant, but as a leader. They admired his strength, his ambition, his vision. Yet Lucifer knew this was only the beginning. Above them, the throne of God blazed with purity, unshaken by the gathering storm. Lucifer's heart seethed. "Soon, the heavens will know my power," he vowed silently. The angels gathered in the great hall, summoned by God himself. A divine radiance filled the chamber, and every heart trembled with reverence. Lucifer stood among them, his face serene, but his mind racing. God spoke with a voice that shook the foundations of creation. "My children, you were made for my glory. Do not stray from the path of light." Lucifer felt the weight of those words, but instead of repentance, they fueled his defiance. His pride whispered, "Why should his glory overshadow mine?" Michael sensed the tension in Lucifer's aura. After the council, he approached him. "Brother, your heart is troubled," Michael said. "Speak to me." Lucifer's gaze darkened. "Do you not wonder why we must always submit? Is there no higher destiny for us, Michael?" "For me." Michael's eyes narrowed. "Take heed, Lucifer. Pride has no place in the light." Lucifer turned away, his wings shimmering as he walked into the shadows. His resolve had hardened. The rebellion would no longer be whispered. In the heart of the celestial realms, Lucifer gathered his followers. The air grew heavy as his voice rang out, powerful and commanding. "I will no longer bow," he declared. "The throne should not be reserved for one. Together, we will ascend above the stars. Together, we will be gods." The angels erupted in a mix of shock and applause. Some were filled with awe at his courage. Others were gripped by fear of his audacity. Michael, sensing the shift, arrived with Gabriel. "Lucifer, stop this madness." Michael bellowed, "Turn back before it's too late." Lucifer sneered, "It is already too late, Michael. The heavens will soon know a new ruler." The tension snapped, and a great divide formed among the angels. Heaven's light dimmed, and the stage was set for the first war of eternity. Lucifer's rebellion erupted like a thunderstorm, shattering the tranquility of heaven. The rebellious angels gathered in hidden corners of the celestial realms, their numbers swelling with each passing moment. They whispered of liberation, of breaking free from servitude. In a secluded hall, Lucifer stood before his followers, his wings unfurled, his voice carrying the weight of his defiance. "We are not meant to serve forever," he proclaimed. "We were born of light, born to rule. Why should one sit above us all?" The angels cheered, their voices echoing through the heavens like a dark tide rising. Lucifer raised his hand, silencing them. His eyes burned with ambition. "Prepare yourselves. We will strike at the heart of the throne. Victory will be ours." Meanwhile, Michael and Gabriel, ever watchful, sensed the shift in the heavenly balance. Michael turned to Gabriel, his voice solemn. "The morning star has become the shadow. His heart is lost. We must prepare for war." Lucifer's rebellion was no longer a secret. The loyal angels rallied under Michael's command, their resolve strengthened by their faith in God's justice. Heaven, once a place of perfect harmony, braced for the unthinkable, a war among its own. The war began with a sound like 1,000 thunderclaps, shaking the very foundations of the celestial realms. Lucifer's army surged forward, their once beautiful forms twisted by pride and defiance. Their weapons glowed with a dark, fiery light, clashing against the radiant swords of the loyal angels. Michael stood at the forefront, his armor gleaming like the sun, his sword blazing with divine power. "For the glory of the Most High," he roared, leading his forces into the fray. The heavens became a battlefield, a cacophony of light and shadow. Angelic voices that once sang in harmony now screamed in rage and anguish. The air was thick with the sound of wings beating furiously, the clash of swords, and the cries of the wounded. Lucifer fought with unmatched ferocity, his beauty now overshadowed by his wrath. He faced Michael, their blades meeting with an impact that sent shockwaves across the cosmos. "You cannot win, Lucifer," Michael said, his voice steady despite the chaos. Lucifer sneered, his eyes blazing. "I will not bow to weakness." The battle raged on, each side fighting with all their might. But the rebellion, though fierce, could not match the power of the loyal angels, who drew strength from the light of the Creator himself. In the final moments of the battle, Michael struck with a blow that resonated through all creation. Lucifer's sword shattered, and he fell to his knees. His once glorious wings tattered and darkened. The voice of God thundered through the heavens, shaking every soul. "Lucifer, son of the morning, you have corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. You are cast out from my presence, and your place in heaven shall be no more." Lucifer screamed in rage and despair as a blinding light engulfed him. He and his followers were hurled from the heights of heaven, falling like lightning through the void. The earth trembled as they struck the ground, their once radiant forms now twisted and grotesque. Lucifer rose, his heart filled with bitterness. He had lost the heavens, but his rebellion was far from over. Standing in the shadows of his exile, he vowed, "If I cannot rule the heavens, I will rule the earth, and I will drag his beloved creation into darkness with me." Lucifer surveyed the earth, his new domain. Its beauty mocked him, a reminder of all he had lost. Yet, it also presented an opportunity. Here, he would build his kingdom, a realm of shadow to rival the light. He called his fallen followers to him, their twisted forms emerging from the darkness. "This world will be ours," he declared, "and we will make them, his precious creation, suffer." The fallen angels roamed the earth, sowing seeds of corruption. They whispered lies into the hearts of men, turning them against each other and against their Creator. Lucifer's vengeance had begun, his unending battle against heaven, and the ultimate promise of redemption. Lucifer prowled through the shadows of the earth, his heart still burning with bitterness. The world, with its oceans, mountains, and skies, was beautiful, but it was not his. Amid his anger, he sensed a new shift in the divine plan. Then he saw them. From the dust of the ground, God formed a new creation man. Adam, in his innocence, stood tall, reflecting the image of the Creator. Soon after, Eve was brought forth, her beauty surpassing anything Lucifer had seen since his fall. The pair walked in harmony with their Maker, their faces glowing with the light of his presence. Lucifer watched, his envy flaring. These fragile beings, made from the dust, were given dominion over the earth, a place he had hoped to claim for himself. Worse, God loved them. His lips curled into a sneer. "If I cannot touch the throne, I will destroy his precious creation. If I cannot rise, I will drag them down to the depths with me." In the stillness of the garden, Lucifer began to scheme. Lucifer took the form of a serpent, his once glorious voice now soft and beguiling. He slithered through the Garden of Eden, watching as Eve marveled at the beauty around her. He approached her slowly, his voice smooth and sweet. "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve turned, startled. "We may eat from the trees, but not from the tree in the middle of the garden. If we touch it or eat its fruit, we will die." Lucifer's eyes gleamed. "You will not surely die," he whispered. "God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." The words planted doubt in Eve's heart. She glanced at the tree, its fruit glistening in the sunlight. It looked pleasing, desirable. She reached out, plucked the fruit, and ate. Adam followed, and in that moment, the light within them dimmed. Sin had entered the world. From the shadows, Lucifer laughed, his voice echoing through the garden. The world changed instantly. The earth, once vibrant and pure, now carried the weight of corruption. Adam and Eve, once clothed in light, now trembled in shame. God walked in the garden, his voice filled with sorrow. "Where are you?" Adam and Eve emerged, their faces downcast. They confessed their disobedience, their voices trembling. God's judgment was swift but laced with mercy. To the serpent, God said, "Cursed are you above all livestock. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." Lucifer's triumph turned to fury. He knew this was not the end. A Redeemer would come. Lucifer roamed the earth, watching as humanity multiplied and drifted further from God. He sowed chaos and division, feeding greed, hatred, and despair. The world became a battlefield, with angelic forces working to counter his schemes. From time to time, Lucifer gazed upward, his rage unquenched. Though he had corrupted humanity, the promise of the Redeemer haunted him. His war was unending, his hatred boundless. Lucifer's rebellion would not go unpunished. The heavens prepared for the final act of redemption, the coming of the Messiah. Lucifer, desperate, attempted to thwart the plan. He inspired betrayal, tempted leaders, and sought to extinguish the light of God's chosen one. But at the cross, his perceived victory turned to defeat. The Redeemer rose, and with him came the promise of restoration for all creation. Lucifer's doom was sealed, his rebellion nearing its end. Yet, even in the face of certain defeat, he vowed to fight until the last moment. In the shadows, he lurked, waiting, plotting, until the day when he would be cast into eternal darkness. The battle between light and shadow continues, but the promise remains. The light will prevail. Subscribe to our channel for more epic tales of triumph and tragedy in the eternal war of good versus evil.